What I can now do is deliver a unique URL that is specific to my client. This allows another option, and I think it sets me apart from my competition. I think it's pretty cool if somebody calls around to get an appraisal that one of the options we can now offer is what we call an interactive appraisal report.
Originating from deep inside the Rocky Mountains, transported through the power of the internet, and arriving inside your tiny earbuds. It's the Appraiser Coach Podcast, helping appraisers increase their efficiency, quality, and make more money. Here's the guy who makes it his life's mission to create value for real estate appraisers nationwide. Your host and the Appraiser Coach, Dustin Harris.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Appraiser Coach Podcast. My name is Dustin Harris. I am the Appraiser Coach. We just got wrapped up with Project Prometheus, and if I learned anything through Project Prometheus, it was to expand my understanding, my view of what is possible with AI. And folks, there are some amazing things possible. I have decided that at least for the time being, moving forward, I am not abandoning all of those things that I learned with Project Prometheus. Instead, I am expanding upon them. I personally do not have any desire to create the next a la mode replacement or ClickForms replacement or even Automax or Ivory replacement. I'll let all of those fun software companies battle it out for themselves. I don't want to be a software company. I don't want to be tech support for a software company. I just like to build in AI. So look at me as the picks and shovels guy, right? The old analogy is that the people that made money during the gold rush were not the individuals out there panning for gold. Very few of those individuals struck it rich. The people that got rich in the gold rush were the stores that sold the picks and the shovels to everybody out there trying to make their fortune. And in a similar way, I want to create the picks and shovels for appraisers to go out and let you go make your fortune. And so with the tools that we built out during Project Prometheus, I have not only given the blueprints, but also the repo through the All-Star team. And being part of the All-Star team gave everyone access to my journey, to the experience that was Project Prometheus. And step by step, I mean, there's over 20 videos, 20 blueprints, 20 SOPs for how to develop each and every one of these tools. Not only that, but I've uploaded the repos, and the All-Star team has an opportunity to download and install those tools. Now, a lot of them have to be by nature prompt instructions rather than just download and hit go. And I'm going to share with you another tool today that was not developed as part of Project Prometheus. It was never used by Pandora, but it can, and I would encourage you, should be used by appraisers nationwide. I'm going to show you an example of a very raw tool, right? That's what I mean by picks and shovels. And through the All-Star team, you can have access to this, but that's not the purpose of the podcast today. It's not to sell you on the All-Star team, though I think it's an awesome team, and there's a lot going on there, especially if you're interested in AI. But this is an opportunity to see what can be done if you get into this world of experimenting with AI. And that's really all I do. I've never claimed to be, in fact, not only do I not claim to be a coder, I am very, very loud about the fact that I've never written a line of code in my life. And Project Prometheus taught me how much can be done by simply asking AI. Hey, I've never done this before. I'm thinking of building this tool. What would be the best approach? Oh, I think you should use this and you should do this and cobble this there. Okay, well, do it. Why do I have to? You do it. And it did. It was awesome. And here's the thing. In the end, as I've already mentioned here on the podcast, Project Prometheus was a success if your success is defined as an experiment to find out what can and can't be done with AI. And without heavy VC money from Silicon Valley and without, MIT engineers building out software, and I'm being a little bit facetious, I don't think you need quite that level to build some pretty cool tools, but that's not me. I don't want to be that. I've been approached by individuals in the past to partner up in such a project, and I have decided that I want to stay in my lane. My lane is education. My lane is let's see what can be done. Let's experiment, and then let's share it with the world. And I do that through the All-Star team. So let me set this up. I've got a really cool tool to share with you, but I'm going to set it up before the sponsorship, and then we'll come back and I'll dive in and actually show you how it works. Setup is this. A couple of weeks ago, I was in a mastermind meeting in Seattle, and it's the West Side mastermind team, and they are incredible. The East Side mastermind team's incredible as well in their own way. Each of them have their strengths and their weaknesses, but we were in a 2 full day mastermind in Seattle. And at some point, we started talking about the difference between USPAP Standard 1 and USPAP Standard 2. Now, don't go to sleep on me. I know anytime you talk about USPAP, we start to snore, right? And that's not even the point. The point is USPAP addresses two sides, and USPAP aside, that's really, I think, the way that appraisers need to think about their work. Because we mistakenly sometimes say, here's your appraisal. I'm going to deliver your appraisal to you. Well, folks, you're not delivering the appraisal. You've never delivered an appraisal in your life. You've done an appraisal, and that's the process. That's standard 1. And then you've delivered an appraisal report. Now, I know some of you are rolling your eyes and you're thinking, oh, Dustin, come on. But folks, I think that's a huge distinction that if you don't understand, I don't think you can be on the level to call yourself professional. I know that's a bold statement to make, and I'm not trying to be controversial in that. But folks, if you think an appraisal and an appraisal report are the same thing, then I'm sorry, you are a box checker. That's the way, and it's not your fault. That's the way you were trained. That's the way you were taught. That's the way you were educated. And that's the way you live your life. And that's not what a professional is. A professional evaluation professional, let's put it that way. Evaluation professional, an appraiser, understands that there is a process that you go through that's called the appraisal process. The problem is the valuation of a piece of real estate. And the process that you go through to get that value is the appraisal. That's not something you can deliver to anybody. Now, you can keep track of it, and you should put it in your work file, all the things that you run across and all the things that you do so that you could recreate that thing down the road, right? But that's still part of the appraisal process. And then there's the appraisal report, the appraisal report delivery. The appraisal report is often on a 1004. A 1004 UAD, a 2055, a 1025. These are Fannie/Freddie forms, and they're for mortgage purposes. But many of you, especially if you followed this podcast for more than just a couple of weeks, know that there's a whole other world out there called the world of private appraisal or private valuation services. And this is when you're doing appraisals for divorces and charitable contributions and estates, and because Joe Blow wants to know the value of his or her property before. By the way, Joe, I said his or her because Joe can be a J-O-E and it can be a J-O. My grandma was Grandma Joe. So Joe Blow could just want to know the value of his or her property, right? And might hire an appraiser to do that. Well, folks, we get in this mode of thinking that there's only one way of doing things. And if there's any talent that the appraiser coach has, and by the way, I use the big IF, like capital I, capital F there. If there's any talent that the appraiser coach has, it's in the ability to think outside the box. That's my one claim to fame. That's one thing I can do. And sometimes it gets me in trouble. but I love to think outside the box. I'm an efficiency guy, and I'm always going to be thinking about how can I look at this different than everybody else. And so we were in this mastermind. I didn't lose my train of thought. Everybody's like, why were you talking about the mastermind? Because we were talking about the difference between an appraisal and an appraisal report, right? And we were also talking about AI. Surprise, surprise. We talk about AI a lot, right? And the thought came to me that, and the reason it came to me is my friend outside the appraisal world, he's not in the appraisal world, my friend slash mentor is doing a lot with HTML. And he's in the insurance field. And one of the things that he's been doing recently is he has created a tool that when someone calls for a quote and he has to, as a broker, go out to several different insurance companies, he usually just comes back with an email and says, hey, I went out and I looked at all these companies, and here's company one and company B and company C, and I suggest company B. It's the best value. It's a little bit more than the option A. It's not as much as option C, but it's kind of that sweet spot, that Goldilocks zone of, this is the one that I suggest. But you're welcome to buy any policy you want. In the past, he's done that in an email, but recently he's built out tools with AI that allow him to basically hit one button and it actually creates a website that is unique to that particular quote. Now, hear me out. What I mean by that is the URL, the hyperlink that he sends to his clients is a private, unique hyperlink that is only for that quote, not just for that client, and certainly not just for his company, right? That would be easy. He's doing it the cool way, which is here's your own private hyperlink. And when they open that up, they have a nice, beautiful display, their own website. It is a literal standalone website for that particular problem, that problem being their insurance quote. And so as we were talking about reports and the different types of reports that some appraisers put out, I had an idea and I just floated it. And I didn't do anything with it other than write it down. And then when I got back to my office after the mastermind, which was days later, I sat down with Manus, which is an agentic AI, and I said, hey, I've got this idea. Can this be created? And not surprising, AI came back and agreed. AI is good at that, right? What a brilliant idea, appraiser coach. I can do that for you. And we did. All right, when I get back, I want to show you what is possible with AI. I want to stress this is not a deliverable, although I have uploaded the repo and I've given it to the All-Star team weeks before you're hearing this. Okay, that's part of being the All-Star team, one of the values there. And they can download it and go through the step-by-step process to set it up themselves. But I want to show you how cool this is and some of the things that are possible with AI. First, I want to pause and remind you that we're sponsored by speaking of insurance, right? Now my buddy is in, he's in auto insurance and casualty insurance and home insurance and all that jazz, right? But speaking of insurance, every appraiser needs to be covered with E&O, right? Because you're going to make mistakes. There's no such thing as a perfect appraisal report. No matter how hard you try, you're going to screw up. And when you do, you're going to want a company there that's got your back. OREP is that company, and OREP has been a sponsor of this podcast for many, many years, and they are my E&O of choice. I literally use this company, folks, and I can tell you I've had to call on them in times of need, and they have always been there for me. And it's not because it's me, and it's not because they sponsor the program. It's because this is how they treat every single appraiser that is under their wing. They understand appraisers, they get appraisers, and they've got your back. If you want to learn more, and you should want to learn more, check them out by going to their website at orep.org. That's OREP.org. Speaking of work files, we've been talking about work files and the appraisal process. Folks, part of that process is making adjustments. That's what we do, right? How many of you were taught the way I was? And I love my mentor, God rest his soul, my father, who passed away several years ago. But you know what? He didn't have a mentor. he was grandfathered in and did the best he could and did a great job. He was a great appraiser, but he passed on habits to me that could be improved. One of them is supporting adjustments. Yes, I'll admit it. The statute of limitations is over, folks. So I'll just freely publicly say that the first few years of doing appraisals 30 years ago was scary. And I go back and I look at those reports and I think, what the hell were you doing, Dustin? Well, folks, you don't have to think about what the hell were you doing, Dustin, when you use a company like TrueTrax. TrueTrax allows you to be able to actually get support for your adjustments. It allows you to be able to do things the right way. And you can learn more by going to truefootage.tech/tools. Again, it's truefootage.tech/tools. All right, folks, welcome back. I want to show with you something that's pretty darn, I think is cool, okay? And what you're looking at is something that Agentic AI, Manus is what I used, and Manus helped me to develop what I call an interactive appraisal report. Similar to what my buddy in the insurance field was doing, what I can now do is deliver a unique URL that is specific to my client. So what I'm doing is replacing the email with the PDF, okay? So you get somebody and they want a GPAR, for example, or they want a restricted appraisal report or some kind of a narrative, okay? This allows another option. And I think it sets me apart from my competition, right? I think it's pretty cool if somebody calls around to get an appraisal that one of the options we can now offer is what we call an interactive appraisal report. Well, what is that? Well, it's your own unique website that is an appraisal of your property, appraisal report. Almost got me. An appraisal report of your property, right, that you can interact with, okay? And this is what it looks like. So when they open up the URL, if you're on YouTube, you'll see what I'm, big blue screen, Peak Value Appraisals is the name of our company. And by the way, this confidential appraisal report you see in front of you, those of you who are freaking out, okay, that is not a real property. I don't even know if that's a real address. It maybe is, but that is not the house, okay? I purposely redacted and changed the address and made all kinds of changes because I didn't want to reveal any confidential information. Now, this is an actual appraisal process that I went through and an actual appraisal report. This was done on a GPAR, and I built a tool through AI. Manus built a tool through my vibe coding, me telling it what to do, of a tool that allows you to upload the information. In this case, it was a GPAR, and it created a unique URL, a unique website for appraisers, okay? And by the way, I iterated on this a little bit. The first one that was given was just, it opened right up. And I thought, well, I don't really want that. If somebody else got the email, they'd be able to click on it. So let's password protect it, okay? So I'm going to put the password in here, if I can remember it, which I would give, hold on. There we go, which I would give to them in another way. Now what you're looking at, folks, is the interactive appraisal report. How cool is this? So on the left side, you've got, by the way, I could iterate and make this thing even more beautiful, even more interactive, but this was literally done in about 20 minutes. I kid you not, okay? So first of all, at the top, it says confidential. You've got 65 days remaining. I did this 10 days ago, and I said, give it a 75-day period, okay? Now, for those of you who are like, well, hold on a second. What if they want that appraisal report forever? Well, guess what? We added a Save to PDF button up here. So anybody at any time in this 65 days or 75 days that they had to begin with can hit Save to PDF or save the PDF, and it will download right onto their computer, okay? And then they can print it out, do whatever they want with it, okay? But this is an interactive URL that's very unique to their property. And on the left-hand side, you've got the engagement in order, you've got the payment confirmation. In fact, I'm going to scroll through these in a little bit, okay? But subject property, neighborhood, site, and GIS, the market analysis, sales comparison, cost approach, reconciliation, narrative and addenda, photo gallery, We've got the building sketch, the FAQs, and the appraisal profile. How cool is that, right? So right at the top, the most important part of an appraisal report is the value, right? That's what everybody wants to know. You don't have to scroll on this one. You don't have to look for it in a GPAR form, which can be kind of hidden. The appraised opinion of market value is right at the top, right? 664,000 with the subject photo. By the way, the main subject of the front view is right on the top. It's got the address. It's got the legal description. Again, I changed all of that for confidentiality. It's got all kinds of information about it's a ranch style. Here's the gross living area, the bedroom bath count, the garage, the lot size, the year build. We've got the engagement. Okay, this is the engagement letter. We took the engagement letter and transferred it into, by the way, if you're looking through this and you're saying, well, Dustin, that it's got some issues, right? Well, yeah, it does, right? This was 20 minutes of iteration, and I'm giving it for free to the All-Star team, and they can take and branch it and do whatever they want with it. I think if you spend, I don't know, an hour, this thing could be absolutely beautiful. I just wanted to push this out here. Okay. Client name is Jane Doughhead. Property address, intended use to determine current market value for prenuptial agreement purposes. Okay. That is actually from the GPAR, by the way. Payment confirmation. The appraisal fee was $900. It was paid. We don't release the report until it's paid, but this says paid in full. They've got record of that with the invoice summary. Then you've got the subject property that has all the details. Right? This is the same stuff you would find on a GPAR. It's just in a cooler layout. It's easier to find. By the way, I'm going to scroll back up here. This menu over here, I can click to any part just by clicking over here. Boom. And scrolls down. Okay. I'm scrolling for purposes of what is so that you can look at the whole thing. This literally is a satellite view of the neighborhood that I appraised. I don't even know where it came from. I don't even know how AI did this, right? Looks like I'm in a hot air balloon above it's not a satellite view, folks, but this is an actual view. I double checked it with the satellite. I was like, there's no way that's right. It's right. I don't even know where this came from. Super cool. Location type, rural, built up, growth rate, marketing time, 3 to 6. It's got the north, south, east, west boundaries. It's got the actual map. Okay, which it's got not the subject, just the subject, but also the comps are on there. Okay, neighborhood description, the site and GIS, the median sales price trend. Okay, it's got a nice, beautiful graph. It's got bar graphs as well with days on market and price distribution. It's got the market condition summary, the MC form, if you will. I know this is for a GPAR, but it did it. Okay. Sales comparison approach. It's got all of the comps that I used and the adjustments that were made. It's got the cost approach in there, okay, which is really cool. It talks about that it came from dwellingcost.com. That's where it came from. It's got the sales comparison approach. It's got the cost approach value. It's got the reconciliation statement, the narrative, adjustment summary, where the adjustments come from, highest and best use, scope of work, limiting conditions, reconciliation, appraiser certification. Okay, this was done by Lowball Joe. Okay. By the way, if you're going to look up the license number, that's made up as well. Okay. Photo gallery. These are all the photos that were taken. By the way, I did not label these. Let me repeat that. I did not label these. I had labels in my GPAR, but they were not these. So for example, this one says subject rear, covered porch, and yard. I did not put that on my original report. That was all AI. Building sketch, it was able to take the sketch that I had done and then recreate it on the form. And then down at the bottom, this is kind of a cool ad, frequently asked questions. Okay. What is the sales comparison approach? What is the cost approach and why was it used? What does effective MAGE mean versus actual? AI came up with all of these, folks. You could iterate on them. You could make them better. You can improve them. Okay. And then the appraiser profile down there. And again, I can download this. I can save it. I can do anything I want with this, folks. I think this is the coolest thing in the entire world. Right. And I did this in 20 minutes. Did I mention that I did this in 20 minutes? This is the kind of thing that is possible with AI. Now, again, if you're going to look at this with a critical eye and say, well, Dustin, that's misspelled, or Dustin, that doesn't look like a sketch that I would use, or Dustin, why would you want to do this? Again, you may not. By the way, I have to tell you, so this is the kind of cool thing. I just think this is crazy, okay? If you look at the subject photo, okay? If you're on YouTube, you'll see the subject photo. You look at the subject photo and you look at the car that is parked in the driveway, AI scrubbed the license plate. I didn't ask it to do that. The license plate is blurred out. You cannot see the license plate number. So you could not identify, right? I think that is the coolest feature that I didn't do. It was just AI basically saying, this is something that I think the appraiser would want, or this is something that the client would want as well. What's the purpose in me sharing all of this? Well, the purpose in me sharing all this, folks, is not to necessarily give you a tool, though if you're a member of the All-Star team, you do get this tool. It's to remind all of us that AI is here to serve us. Many of us are freaked out about AI. What are we going to do about AI? AI is going to come and take our jobs. AI is going to replace the appraiser. Folks, it's things like this. It's the individuals who take AI, create cool tools, right? The picks and shovels, and then utilize them in their appraisal office that will be long-lasting. If you've not started into AI, I encourage you to do so. If you want your hand held through the process, that's what we're doing in the All-Star team. Every single month, we do not just the normal meetings, not just the normal processes, but we also are doing what's called the AI Appraiser Academy. Every month, we meet together for a full 2 hours to build systems like this, to build tools like this, to work on AI together. Not only that, but there is a community circle, we call it, that is very specific to artificial intelligence. If you have any question, if you want to share any repo, if you want to help anybody that's working on AI, you can do it inside the All-Star team. I hope you will join us. It's $49 a month, folks, and I didn't even talk about some of the other features that are out there, but this is the stuff that we're doing. If you want to be an appraiser who is building with AI, that is the place you need to be. Hope to see you there, and hope you'll use this concept and build out your own and do some really cool things out there outside the box of what's normally being done, and go create some value.
You've been listening to the Appraiser Coach podcast with Dustin Harris. If you like what you hear, please give us a 5-star rating and post a short review on iTunes. For more in-depth insider information on how you can make more money as a real estate appraiser, visit theappraisercoach.com and sign up for the All-Star team today. Thanks for joining us. And now, get out there and create some value.